talking about the Soul Train Awards. Um, did you see any of the performances?
Yeah, just saw briefly. Saw some Maxwell and
Mhm.
Ashanti, um, Elder Barge, singing "Rhythm of the Night."
Right.
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's yeah, as I said, it's because right now, Viacom, who own BET and the whole stuff, they realized, well, we can make some money on YouTube, so they release it, all the performances in a video on
They
YouTube.
might
So
as well, because nobody's watching cable anymore. And for me, the highlights of the night were I mean, if you can call it that, Ashanti and Maxwell. I mean, I saw Maxwell up there, and I'm like, he appeared. He looked like he was auditioning for B2K. Like he was up there crunk dancing and
yeah,
doing
yeah,
backflips
yeah,
and
yeah, yeah,
and splits. I'm like,
yeah. He's
Maxwell. I mean,
he's
I've seen him perform. He is a good performer, but I was just like, somebody come get their uncle because he is gonna brain something,
well, he's
snap
getting
something
ready
on
for his
snap.
he's getting ready for his tour though with Joe and Anthony Hamilton. I think you know he
Yes,
wants to put on a good show, and
he does.
yeah, it's
I love his confidence though. He one thing, I think he's very underrated as a performer. Um, so I will give, like I said, I do like some of his songs. I notice that falsetto might be gone on him because he doesn't do the falsetto songs no more, like Woman's Work. You never see him perform those. So, it's a little questionable in that department, the falsetto, but um, it's good to see him up there still representing for the guys because I
Mm,
noticed that Soul Train has become very female centric, and it's like always it's like the Lady of Soul and da 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 da. So it's good to see some standout guys that perform. And when
yeah,
I saw Ashanti, um, I have respect for Ashanti. When Ashanti first came out, she was cool. I didn't really think much, about her, but she has been one of those artists that has been improving on herself. She's been improving her vocals. She's been improving her performances. She looked gorgeous last night,
mm,
and it was good to see her get some, shine and some respect because we're always thrusted with like Beyonce, Beyonce, Beyonce
yeah,
every so it's good to see other artists get their flowers and get their, respect and accolades. She won, I believe, the Lady of Soul Award or something. So it was good to
yeah.
see her
I
get
mean, well,
that.
it's strange to me because when she came out with "Foolish," um,
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, you sampled the Biggie track, and of course that blew up. To me, it was pretty
Right.
much it was a Biggie track that you sampled. We were still missing him, and it was a big track, and that's so you pretty much on the coat of that. So, um, although I got an album, I never really um I didn't think have she had a standout voice. I think she had good
Hmm.
hits, a lot of good tracks, but I didn't. She didn't. I didn't think of of her any differently than especially when she was on Murder Inc. and sang a lot of hooks for Jaru. Like anyone could have done that. So I think to me, she's at 41, she's really kept herself good. But
Mm.
I've never really rated her just because I always thought she was just she had some hits, but she didn't have a. I didn't. I personally did not think she had a very distinct style of singing. That if I
Right.
close my eyes, I would like, oh, that's Ashanti. I would know the beats, the hits. Um, Aaliyah has a distinct vocal, so you can hear her
Yes, you know.
vocals, even if you think that she might be overrated. I didn't say you are, but I think if some people,
Hallelujah. Hallelujah. No, go ahead.
even though
Yes, yes,
people
yes.
might think she's like, okay, they've hyped her up, but she had a very distinct vocal. Um, you know, Beyonce, very distinct vocal. Mary, Faith Evans, very distinct
Hmm.
vocals. Where even the sounds of unfortunately, as they got into the late '90s, early 2000s, everyone just chased the beat, so you kind of they got
Right,
lost.
right.
Although Mary still remained distinct, Tony Braxton still remained distinct in her vocals. So I think, um, but Ashanti's probably getting a lot of recognition for her consistency, still being there. Probably got beaten up, not physically beaten up, but the industry, really took advantage,
Yeah.
and she's sort of kept herself high. She actually looks as if she's like a J Lo kind of like, I've made money in different areas, and so
Right.
she's got her mom and her sister and her family supporting her stuff. So I think she got herself in good shape, and then now she's going to re-record her album so that she can own her own
Which is
copies
smart.
of her stuff. So I
I
think
wish
she's
more
got the
people would do that.
yeah. I don't think they see the value of it. I don't think they understand the value of the fact that everything. It's not a quick fix. It's a sense of when you record your own stuff, add a few things in there and re-release it. um, when somebody's trying to download, an old Boys to Men or whatnot, and they see, there's a
Hmm.
2022 version with a next new song, it's like, oh, let me listen to that, not knowing all the money goes to them as opposed to
Right.
the label and stuff. And so it's something that's artists, maybe they just don't.
It's what, but it's weird though. I wonder how can she do that if half of her songs are sampled? Like "Foolish" is samples a Biggie song, which was a sample of a DeBarge song. So I mean, it's so many. I think if she packaged it where it was fresh and new and updated. I mean, I don't even want to say that because I don't think people are really interested in new music. To be honest, the only people I see successful with that model of re-recording has been Taylor Swift, and I mean, she's a pop artist, and I don't know that the R&B fans are that we're different consumers. We're kind of like, especially American urban consumers.
Yeah.
They're very now the moment. Once you're done, you're done. Even if the artist is making good music, like for example, Chingy, when they were done with Chingy, they were done with Chingy. Chingy. It didn't matter how good his music was. Once you're done and you're not no longer popular, we kind of just cast you aside and toss you to the side, and we don't want to hear anything new. So it's really unfortunate, and I've seen it happen to so many artists that are talented and still doing good music. But if you're not hot and popular and the fresh new thing, then you're over in some people's eyes. So
Well, I mean, so there's a difference between now, if say Keith Sweat was to re-record "Make It Last Forever,"
mhm,
um, and with the technology in there, with how he sings now, and he probably, instead of getting Jackie McGee, he probably could get anyone he wanted to feature on
yeah,
that track. Um, and all of a sudden he owns that recording. He might not own all the publishing because they all got taken advantage of, but he will own the
mhm.
recording of that. And when he's going on tour, whatever it is, and people are looking at it, it's like, oh, a new and he could, if he wanted to be nostalgic, say, Teddy, let us re-record this album that we did together, and and we'll have a very different split on that. um
But see, the only way this works though, see Taylor Swift when she redid her music, she still sounds like herself. She still vocally sounds exactly the same for the most part. I mean, not that she's
yeah,
doing much for their vocals anyway, but she still sounds the same. Ashanti actually sounds better now.
yeah.
Um, she pretty much can sound like that again. She can replicate those vocals. Keith Sweat, his voice to me doesn't sound the same. He can still sound the way he sounds, but not the same. His voice sounds older. It
But
wouldn't be the same recording.
it's on that
It's like Aaron Hall. If Aaron Hall went back and recorded like with Guy, we're not going to get the same
they
product. It's
they
going to be
they
the
they've never.
$2 bin
No,
re-recorded.
it'll be auto tunes and stuff. They can get him sounding like the old Keith. They can
No,
get them sounding like they could. They made J Lo sound like she could sing back in the day, and so they can do it.
okay.
But a lot of it, I think it's more so. Um, i- if he came out with a 2020 version of "Make It Last Forever," the album, with a song. Oh, he keeps playing "Let's Chill" because he says he actually co-wrote it. Then record that. Keep Sweating, Teddy Riley, "Make It Last Forever," feature with a bonus track "Let's Chill." I can tell you how many people. I mean, we won't. Most people won't buy the album because, as I said, I don't have any place
Yeah.
to play an album.
Nobody plays
Um,
buys albums, like you
yeah,
said. Yeah.
but it would I watch? You know, if it's available on YouTube, I'll listen to it. And he goes on the road singing his album.
But
I
that's the
mean,
point. Why put all that energy behind something that no one's going to actually purchase? It doesn't, I mean, I get what you're saying, but it doesn't make
this
sense
is a
to put all that energy behind it.
long-term investment because the moment you release something and make it available digitally, it's one of the things. Then 10 years. That's why the record labels, you know, they're still making money off of
Right.
Greg Isaac and all these people from back in the day because TVs are streaming, adverts are playing all the music. They're
Right.
still making the money, and so you just
And that's
own.
why, but that's why the record companies are going to counter with, we have the original recordings. We have the, you're going up against a monster. When you're trying to go up against those record companies, it's a monster. Like, you could put out your little rinky dink on your little rinky dink independent label, say, hey, I re-recorded my music. But and there's been several occasions where people have done this, and then all of a sudden the record label gets wind of it, and they're putting out the remastered all greatest hits. So you can't compete with that, because let's be honest, most of these artists could not re-record their music and sound exactly the same. By the
Mm,
time they're actually even thinking like that, their voices have changed. And a lot of these 90s artists, a vast majority of it, a lot of it is sampled music. So how are you going to get all those clearances and different things like that? Like Mary J. Blige, if she was going to re-record all her albums, then she would have to, you know, rearrange the music, or do what Lauryn Hill did with her second album, just get somebody to get a guitar and acoustically play a song. Because I think that's largely why Lauryn Hill did that acoustic album, because she probably got in that legal trouble about her first album. But anyway, um,
yeah,
so I'm getting off track. The point
yeah,
I'm trying to make is that I think that there is there isn't a market anymore for that kind of music. I think we're all in nostalgia. We want to hear the original. We want to hear the old music. Even for if Ashanti re-recorded her new album, I wouldn't be interested, because the original is going to sound better to me, just because the music is the sampled version. It's already samples and stuff. Like, most of her singles are samples. So is she gonna?
yeah. But if
I
you
don't know how
think
she would
about it,
do
when
that.
they're on tour, we're listening to them with a backing track, not from the original, but a sort of they get somebody to make a new track, so that which is not owned by the record label, and so
Right.
that's what we're listening to when they're on stage. So it's very
Right,
much
but we're
to
not
do.
listening to that on the radio though. Like, that's on stage. Like, I don't mind live performances, but I don't want to hear live performances on the radio. Like, I want to hear, like, the arrangements that are on live performances. I don't want to
Mm.
hear that. I hate live albums, to be quite honest. And for me, if it doesn't sound like the original, unless it's better, which is very rare and very hard to do, I don't want to hear it. I want to hear the original song. I don't want to hear, the 2022 version of Foolish, and it doesn't have the same ingredients. It doesn't
Well,
sound the same to
yeah,
me.
but and it could be yeah. She said she's vocally in a different place. Production
Hmm.
wise, will be in a different place. So it'd be interesting to see. You need 120 million followers like Taylor Swift to make her album or her re-recorded album outsell her, because they're streaming it and they've taken it to the top 10. So she's got that fan power. But as I said, it is something to be. It's something just to watch out for, to see how many artists will take that brave step and redo it, or if they don't, just be creative with it. I tell them all the time, just do an unplugged version of your stuff. You own it, you put it out there. If people want to listen to it, they will. It's when you put out a product, it it's a long-term investment. It will
Right.
it's not something that you like, oh, we didn't make money now. When H Town said, hey, we're putting out music not to stop, not to make money, but we're putting out music um, so that people know that we're still around. So a lot of the R&B groups now are putting out records here so they can get the promoters to say, "Oh yeah, they're putting it everywhere, so people can still they're in the public psyche, and they're using that to get their tours." they're not using it to try and get a million streams and stuff like that, because they just think, it's too much of effort to try and do that. But anyway, it'll be stuff to be hoed down the future and stuff.
Mhm.